Next up is places in Localist. Places are locations that an event would take place at. So a lot of times we get a question of, should we add every single building on campus to Localist? And the answer is no. You want to add only the venues that an event would realistically take place at. So you don't need to go through and add individual rooms for every place and have every room as its own place in the system. You really should just pick the buildings that people need to know about and a lot of events are being held at. So adding a new place, very, very simple. All you need to do is enter the full name. So as an example, we'll call it Theater Place. Once we hit save, it will actually take us to the created profile of that page. The created profile of that place. And you can see here there's a lot more information to add. All of it is completely optional. The only thing that obviously would be very helpful is entering the address. So we will enter that now. And when we hit save on that, we can see it actually, these numbers here are a geo-coordinate. And that's something that Google Maps used to determine where on Google Maps that pin appears. So if we click View Profile, you can see this is the pin on the map for that venue. So going back to admin, let's say the pin on the map, the address is correct, but the pin on the map is appearing in a strange place. You can actually click change and define that geocode manually. So if you wanted to kind of move that pin over a bit, you can define that geocode here. It will keep the address for display purposes, but it will allow you to really pinpoint exactly where that pin should appear in Google Maps. So just going up to the top to go over the relevant fields. It's worth mentioning that places in Localist are actually user profiles. So you'll sometimes see the same fields associated with users. You'll also see those on the places. These can safely be ignored. We tend to auto-generate anything that should go in these fields. So as you can see here, this email address was actually just auto-generated by Localist, and it's to allow us to create that profile, as email addresses are the unique identifier. Scrolling down a bit with keywords, very similar to events. If there's a common misspelling of the venue, so in this case we can say, sometimes people spell theater this way. So we want to make sure that when someone's searching for this venue, they can search for theater spelled either way, and it will appear in the results. So this is how you do that. If you wanted to change the URL name, so if you wanted to make it something a bit more memorable, you can do that. And then when we hit save and click View Profile, you can see now it has this very memorable URL name. This is very useful if you're running, say, a radio ad and you wanted to tell people to go to your school's calendar. So in this case, events.colum.edu/theater. It will take them right to the theater profile where it can highlight upcoming theater events. If the theater has its own website, you can specify that here. If you wanted to enter a brief description about the venue itself, maybe the age, its founding, who the owners are, things of that nature, you can specify that here. It's just additional information for users to get an idea of the overall context of the event. The editorial description isn't displayed anywhere publicly. It's actually just meant for admins to specify any details on the venue. So if, for example, the place is only open during the winter season, you can specify that here. And that's just so if an administrator sees this place is unverified, they know not to re-verify it if it's not wintertime. And just a bit further down, for zip code, phone, and hours, that's just general information for your users to get an idea. If they, for example, putting in the phone number would allow your users to call the venue to see if they're open, or in the case of a theater, what movies are playing. For amenities, amenities pulls the filters associated with a place. And in another video, we actually go over how to administer filters in Localist. So this is where you can choose the type of the venue. So in this case, we'll choose theater. So for parking, as you saw with Google Maps, users can certainly use Google Maps to determine how to get to the location. But if you wanted to specify some additional parking information, say, defining if the person should park in a particular garage or across the street, you can define that here. Similar with directions. If there are specific directions that Google Maps might not mention, you can mention them here. Marking an event, marking a place as sponsored will allow you to highlight the place a little bit more. So if on the general place listings you wanted to draw more attention to a featured venue, say something that just opened, on the Places to Go page, it would appear right at the top. So it's a great way to highlight a particular venue outside of just the alphabetical listing. And that's Places in Localist.